That's the feeling we've all had. How new shoes would make you glad, but the best time you recall when you wore no shoes at all. Back the days.
Going for a walk out on the land, just trying out this wide angle lens that Aaron lent me. See how it works. Seems like it's a lot easier to be close to the camera and the microphone and do this kind of selfie thing. Oh. I don't know where she just went. I can still hear her. When I first got her, she would go off trail over here and go over to the neighbor's pasture and just run out and chase all the cows. Oh, there she is. She's way over there. What you doing, pup? You gonna take off? You gonna follow me, huh? One of the great things about living at Dancing Rabbit is that we've got 280 acres of land, so it's kind of like you own your own farm or your own state park, and you can just go out and wander around. It's mostly wildland that is set aside for wildlife, and it's really pleasant. And that's a lot of land. I mean, I think our village is only planned to be on about 45 acres of our total land, and then some of that's going to be, some of the 280 acres is agricultural, but most of it's just set aside, and we do some prairie restoration. I think Thomas plans on doing some prescribed burns soon because he's mowed some fire breaks just recently throughout this whole area. So I suspect this is going to be burned pretty soon. Ours is one of the few pieces of land in the area that's not corn and soybeans or pasture. So it tends to be a haven for wildlife, particularly birds and ground nesting birds that have, you know, the numbers have declined over the decades because they can't survive in the monocultures as the farmers, you know, till up the fence rows and try to extract more from their land. There's quite a bit of CRP though in our area, I guess, and that's tends to be wildland and habitat for birds. But we also have deer here, a lot of deer, and I think they seek refuge at this time of year because it's hunting season. Here she comes. She's back. She's doing a pretty good job following along with me. Sometimes she just runs off on her own and I have to wait until she comes back later at night. Most of our land is this either prairie or pin oak, cedar, honey locust, and Osage orange. We don't have the most diverse land, and we've tried to restore prairies here, done all these prescribed burns, we've planted seed, and it seems like most of what we get growing here is Indian grass, and I think that's just because of the nutrient deprived soil that was done in by conventional agriculture. So all these used to be farm fields here. This right here is what we call thin soil prairie. And as you can see, it's pretty much nothing but Indian grass. And I think the name that it has kind of says it all. The thing about these prairie grasses is they can have root systems that go down like 14 feet or more. And before the settlers came in, you know, it was like a big sponge. So when they'd get a big storm, all the prairies would just soak up that water. And then they started tilling up the prairies for agriculture. And suddenly they found they had all these problems with floods. And it's because they had taken all the vegetation out that acted as that sponge, and everything just ran off along with the topsoil. Most of the woods on our land is in these draws, and it's nice, they're really pretty little woods. It's nice to walk along the draws in the springtime looking for morels. And then everything gets taken over by poison ivy. As you can probably imagine, with this big open sky here, you can see a lot of stars at night. Pretty much if we don't have clouds, there's a Milky Way that's really bright every night. It's definitely a great benefit about living here. There's not much light pollution. Well, this is the end of our land. You can see where it goes from wild prairie land to flat monoculture farmland. You can see in the distance there, that's actually a CAFO, confined animal or concentrated animal feeding operation that raises hogs. So sometimes when you're doing this walk, you can hear the pigs squealing over there. That's the worst example of industrial agriculture, livestock agriculture, because they pack them in. This is the both loved and hated autumn olive. It's just getting a foothold on our land, and if we don't do something about it pretty soon, it might end up taking over all of our space. As I can see, there's at least a few more getting started in there, and they're popping up all over the land. They produce tons of seeds and fruit, and so once you get them, pretty hard to get rid of. So this here is an example of a tree that we planted here. There's a number of oaks in this area that were planted, and they're like Burr Oaks and different kinds of white oaks, I think, that are more for like native prairies or oak opening settings and habitat. And they don't seem to like our soil that much. I think they've been here for a long time, and they're just not very big compared with the pin oaks. Pin oaks of equal age would probably be like 30 feet tall or so by now. And this one's barely like 12, maybe. These trees way in the distance here are what we call the old Homestead. There's still the old trees that were around the house that used to be there. And now there's just a root cellar, some old farm implements, and some fencing over in that area. And there's an old windmill that pumped water out of a well. It's kind of a nice place to go and camp though, and hang out. There's a nice campsite, and it's right along the road. So it's a good place to enjoy Dancing Rabbit. This is little remnants of the farmstead. There's some kind of a wagon back here, getting totally broken down and rusty in the grass. There's actually a tree growing right up around that wheel, and the wheel is getting consumed pretty much by the tree. See that right there? Whoa. It's pretty crazy. You should see this place throughout the season. I mean, there's so many different flowers, prairie flowers and goldenrod. Every time of year there's something different in bloom. This sycamore in the tree tube here is the beginning and the entryway to the Critters and Kyle's food forest project. That's what all these tree tubes are. And this whole area within the trees here is both Kyle and the Critters food forest project for like 1.5 acres, and then over in that direction, which is towards the swimming pond, is a project that Thomas is doing. And that over there with those trees there is called Dead Car Draw. And there's an old, I think it's an Oldsmobile or Pontiac or something that's back there, half buried in the ground. And that's why we call it Dead Car Draw. Black locusts are kind of amazing trees. They grow so fast, and obviously they grow fast in really poor soil because they're doing it in our soil. These are probably only a couple years old, maybe like 2 or 3 years old, and they're already 15 feet tall. That's why they're good for coppicing too, because they'll grow fast. You can cut them down and then they'll grow right back. Now we're back to my hoop house and vineyard, which are not that far from the food forest area. And this is all what we call the west slope, because it's a slope and it's facing west. And that's where my vineyard is. And that's where all the ag land is that we opened up. Used to be in CRP, and now it's either open for agriculture or it's being used for agriculture. My water system, which probably is not pumping anymore because it's in the shade, but it did a good job. I probably filled up half of that tank today. Nice sunny day for water pumping. All right, well, thanks for joining me and Banjo on this little land walk. I'm sure it gave you a better idea of what our land is like here at Dancing Rabbit. It's pretty amazing. It's really hard to believe that it's mid-November now. It seems like it's about September, September weather consistently. And it's been this way throughout October and November. We've only had a couple of hard frosts yet. And well, actually, they were kind of hard frosts. I mean, they were more like 28 degrees, which is, kind of on the edge of it. It's definitely not low 20s. We haven't had anything close to that yet. There's still so much green out there. It's kind of nice, but also a little scary, because it's really not supposed to be this warm this long into the season, and we're kind of all wondering if we're even going to get a winter this winter. Well, anyways, thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that. Share the video with your friends, and give it a thumbs up if you liked it. And I want to give thanks to all those people who are leaving comments and questions and giving thumbs up to my videos, because that really makes a difference in drawing more traffic to my channel and getting the word out better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.